I understand that like I'm in a very blessed position to be able to like do what I love. That is shooting videos, making films, creating content for the internet and for clients and stuff like that. So I really enjoy what I do. So what drives me is really just like holding on to that. So making sure that like the videos that I do, the clients that I take on, the projects that I, decide to attach myself to, they're actually projects that I care about and that I really enjoy and that I never lose that desire to want to keep going. Like at any point when this whole thing starts to feel like a job for too many days in a row, I like quickly realize I'm like, okay, I need to make a shift. I need to make a change. Maybe take a little bit less on, do something more creative, because I really love what I do. And so, like, what drives me is just keeping that feeling constantly. And if I start to lose it, I have to make an adjustment.
Right. Okay. That's nice. What specific part of your job do you actually enjoy? I know you enjoy the entire, creation process and everything, but what
Oh,
part
I
do you
don't. I
actually?
don't.
You don't? Oh, wow.
I'm not even
Okay,
gonna
that's
lie.
news.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I don't enjoy the entire process actually. Like I don't like editing.
Right.
I
Okay.
don't like
We
it
all
at
don't know.
all. I don't like coloring. So no, I don't like the entire process. I mean, for me, my favorite process or my favorite part of it is like physically holding the camera and getting that shot. Like I think as a creator, I think we've all had that moment where like you get that shot and you're like, yes, that looks good. Like that's amazing. I can't wait to see that back on my monitor.
Yeah.
Like for me, it is the actual act of getting the shot itself. Like once the lighting and everything is all dialed in, when you see it on your monitor, for me, that's my favorite part.
Right.
And then I'd say like my second favorite part is like when I have the opportunity to work with really talented actors, it's the directing piece. Like being able to direct and be able to communicate with my actors and try to make sure that we're getting the right performance. Like those are probably the two areas that I love the most, which is the reason why I find myself most of the time operating as a director or a DP. Those are my two favorite areas to kind of live in.
Right. Okay. So is there a time where you've got nothing to do, but you just feel like grabbing hold of the camera, going out and shooting anything that comes to mind? Because if you are in that position of loving the part where you actually hold onto the camera and get the shots and stuff like that, is that something that drives you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there are times where I just want to go out and capture, but I mean, I do this like full time. This is my only job. I do this
Yeah.
5 to 6 days a week. So I get plenty of opportunity to get out there and film, especially with having the YouTube channel. So it definitely keeps me very busy. If I'm not working on a client project, I'm working on a YouTube project. If I'm not working on a YouTube project, I'm probably working on one of my training courses. So I stay very active when it comes to operating a camera. But there are times where, like, for example, just last week, we had a job. Me and my team, we flew to San Francisco. We're based in Houston, Texas. But when we flew to San Francisco, we actually stayed out there an extra day because I just wanted a day to be able to go and just film in San Francisco.
Right.
Like, go to the woods, go to the beach, like go shoot the bridge, like everything, because I just wanted to capture some of those frames for myself. It wasn't for the client. It wasn't really necessarily for a YouTube video, but I'm sure some of that content will make its way into a YouTube video
Right.
eventually.
Yeah.
But for me, it was about just getting out there and just filming.
Awesome. You mentioned YouTube. What comes first?
Yeah.
Your job as content creator or YouTube?
Um, so you mean as far as like shooting for clients, does
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
come first or YouTube? So clients come first
Okay.
as of right now. And that's because like I have a full-fledged production company, so I actually have a handful of employees.
Right.
There's quite a bit of stuff going on here, so I can't really just do what I want to do because obviously I have payroll and
Yeah.
benefits and all these other things that I have to take care of for my employees. So because of that, my client work, because it's right now more high paying work,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of takes high priority.
Yeah.
But we are actually, as an entire company, working on making that transition over to YouTube being more of the preference. So I would say right now it's probably like 70-30 or maybe 60-40,
Right.
on the high end being more client work based stuff and then the rest of it being YouTube. But because we have things like the training course platform, that's actually helping YouTube to be more monetary and more, feasibly something that we can spend our time on. And it's really been a nice little balance.
So does that mean that you're looking at eventually giving up client work and concentrate fully on YouTube?
I've done that before. Like, so I tried to just focus on just YouTube. And what I found for me at least is that I like doing client projects. Client projects give you the opportunity to try new things. Whether the client comes to you with, a certain idea for a commercial or they want to go shoot, like, for example, in San Francisco last week. Like, I wouldn't have probably taken my team to San Francisco to shoot a YouTube video,
Yeah.
but if a client gives us the opportunity to go to San Francisco, we're definitely going to take it. So I don't think there'll ever be a day where we like 100% walk away from all client projects. But what I do like about having YouTube as like a platform is that it allows me to be more selective about the client projects that I take. So I don't have to take every single one that comes, even if the budget's right. But if we don't really want to do it, YouTube allows us to say no to a lot more projects than otherwise we'd be able to.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now, Brandon Washington, where did it all start? Where did this creativity all come from? How did it start? What age did you start, and how is it going?
Yeah. So I mean, I've been a pretty artsy kid my entire life. Whether that was drawing or like for a big part of my youth, I actually danced. And when I got into high school and like getting ready to graduate high school, I danced professionally. So
Okay.
I was going on tours
Oh,
and I
wow.
was performing live in front of like sold out arenas. Like it was a pretty cool time of my life, but it was that kind of molded me into becoming a videographer and kind of picking up a camera. I had friends and other people obviously who I danced with at the time, and I wanted to start recording our dance sessions, our performances and all those things. And the more I recorded us dancing, the more I actually loved the actual filming portion of it. And it kind of took me down this crazy rabbit hole of trying to figure out how to shoot the best videos and learning filming techniques. And YouTube was coming along around the same time period. And so it was like, oh, I can put our dance videos on YouTube. And then I started seeing all these other filmmakers on YouTube. And then my mind just exploded. And this didn't come until after I graduated high school.
What year was
So,
that?
I graduated in '09. So, this is a little over 10 years ago when I first picked up a camera at this point. And, for me, it has been one of my favorite outlets creatively. Now it kind of plays both as like job and creative outlet. But yeah, man, about a little bit over 10 years ago when I picked up my first camera, and I haven't looked back since. I haven't danced a whole lot since either, but it was definitely, I think it was a good transition for me. So that way I could still have that artistic outlet because, like I said, I've always been an artsy kid. Just kind of been my thing. Wasn't really good at school, but I was good at the arts.
That's
So
it. That's it. It takes the art to motivate you, though, isn't it? Yeah, and obviously,
yeah.
10 years later, now you have a full company that you own. Full on business. How many employees do you have?
So there are four of us as of right
Okay.
now, and then I work with tons of contractors in the
Mm.
city. So I subcontract out a lot of work, subcontract out graphics and websites and all these different things for my clients. And so I found that that's been like the best workflow for us
Right.
so
Right.
far.
The bits where you transitioned from filming yourself and your friends and transitioning into the actual business side of things, how did that go?
I mean, so for me, I sort of stumbled into it. I didn't really like set out saying like, oh, I'm gonna turn this video thing into a
Right.
business.
Okay.
I kind of found it accidentally. But for me, what happened was I was shooting videos, like I said, shooting dance videos, whatever, whatever. And actually, me and my wife had just had our first son, and I was like, oh, I really want to go on vacation, but we were poor because I was spending all of our money on camera equipment, probably. And so I was like, I got to figure out a way to get us a beach house to go on vacation for the weekend. So I went onto this website. It was at the time, it's kind of like Airbnb today, but back then it was called HomeAway. And I went on there and I just started messaging every beach home that I could find. And I was like, hey, I'm a filmmaker and a photographer. I will trade you video and pictures of your house for the ability to stay in your house for the weekend.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I sent out tons of messages trying to do this. And I had one person respond to me, and she actually responded and was like, hey, I have 4 beach houses.
Wow.
Can you do all 4 of them? And you can stay there for a week.
Oh wow.
And so I
Okay.
was like, yeah, absolutely. So at the time, me and my wife, we just we hopped in the car, we drove down there, and we just, I filmed and took photos of everything. So that way I could have all of that. And what ended up happening is at the end of that week, I had a full-fledged portfolio. And I took that portfolio, I put it on Facebook, and I started just sharing it. And I said, hey, if you have friends or family who are looking to sell their houses, or who are realtors who might need video or photo services, like, I'm available. And that's really how I started my business, was just by, trading my service for a beach house. And then ultimately I was able to then take that, that new portfolio that I had, and then I was able to share that online on Facebook for other people to be able to eventually hire me for.
Whilst you was talking, you mentioned having your first child. So that
Yeah.
means you have somewhat a family. Are you married
Yeah.
or?
Yeah. So I'm married. I have 2 boys.
Right.
They're 9, and one actually turned 6 today at the time of recording this.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah. So we are, 2 boys, married,
Okay.
going pretty good.
How do you balance that with your job? Because you fly out a lot.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
honestly. Balancing family and work is always a challenge. For me, my thing is family comes
Of
first,
course.
right? So, we spent time with my son earlier today. We celebrated his birthday. We did some stuff yesterday as well. We have a party scheduled for him tomorrow because
Okay.
it's Saturday at the time of recording this. Tomorrow will be Saturday. But family obviously comes first. They're number one. And I make sure that they are aware of that
Yeah.
because, when you own your own business or you're trying to grow your business, it's very important that you have your family's support
Yeah.
because you're going to need their help, whether that's just in understanding that, you got to go work a late shift or you have to travel for
Yeah.
3 or 4 days. And I find that, like, if you don't put family first, they don't feel the love, they don't feel the support. And
Hmm.
so when you need things from them, it's harder to ask. And like I said, it's a difficult balance, but I think it's just about having the priorities.
Yeah.
For me, when it comes to spending time with my family, I am not on my phone. Like, my phone goes away, and I'm actually in the process right now of like now I actually have 2 phones. I have a business phone and I have my personal phone. And when I'm not working, all of my business stuff is going to be on my business phone, and that's going to go away in a drawer, and I'm not going to touch it. And that's about, making sure that even if there are times when you can't have a large quantity of family time, you're making sure that the quality of family
Yeah.
time is
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah.
high. And sometimes as simple as just putting your phone away is the best thing you can do.
Yeah. Awesome. 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 Are there any times where you get a gig outside the country and you would fly with your family together?
So I don't typically take gigs outside of the country, especially now with
Yeah.
COVID and
Yeah.
everything else going on. But there have been times just like within the country where we go to different
Different
states and
states.
things like that. I'll try to work in like a little vacation with the family. Or me and my wife kind of have this little deal where, like, if I take a job in a city or a state that me and her have not gone to
Right.
together, we'll go before the job. So that way we can experience it together and kind of have that moment. So like back in the day, a couple of years ago, we went to Vegas, and neither one of us had been to Las Vegas here in the States. So, me and her went up there early and had our own little vacation there first. So then when I went back up there to do work, I could just do work. So try to make it where, there's a little bit of fun in there too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's all a balance.
Yeah. Awesome. Whilst we're talking about family, parents,
Hmm.
how was the growing up from there? Because I'm asking this because when you're a child, certain parents, they'll try and force you into a certain career path. And, especially when you're talking about being creative, a lot of parents
Yeah.
are like, no, there's no money in there. It's a waste of time. Go and do a lawyer, go and study medicine or something like that. How did that go on about?
I can honestly say I was very, very blessed.
Awesome.
I know that that's a reality for a lot of
Hmm.
people, but, my parents have really like supported me in whatever I wanted to do. As I said, as a kid, it was very clear that I was not going to be a lawyer. I was not going to be a doctor. Anything that required a high level of education
It's
probably
not
was
for
off the
you.
table for me. My grades definitely showed that a lot. So my parents kind of accepted that part of me early on. But I would say that, I am kind of like a really good mix of both of my parents. So like my mom and my dad are separated. Like they were separated when I was young.
Right.
And my dad is very, very creative. Like he was
Awesome.
actually a DJ.
Okay.
So, and this is back when it was on vinyls and he was scratching and everything else. And he taught me that. Like I grew up with music with him. Like that's actually what got me into dancing a little bit. And, he was a very creative person, but he was also very entrepreneurial minded. Like he always was trying to do his own business or whatever. My mom, on the other hand, was, very like structured, but she was also a really, really hard worker, like a ridiculously hard worker. She actually raised me and my brother pretty much by herself for most of our lives. And I got to like experience that first and foremost. And so I like to say that I got the best of both of them, where I was able to get the creative side from my dad and the entrepreneurial side from him. But then from my mom, I was able to get some of the structure that was needed in order to be successful and the hard work that was needed in order to be successful. And I just kind of learned from my environment. I am not 100% like either one of them. And, I've even had the conversation with them that neither one of them were perfect either. But I was able to learn from each of them. And even sometimes you learn from your parents, what not to do. And I appreciate each of them for everything they've given me. And even what they didn't give me,
Mm.
because a lot of that has helped shape who I am
Yeah.
today. But yeah, I mean, I will say that my parents did support, I mean, really, it was like, they're just happy that I'm doing something and that I'm somewhat successful in it.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, my grades were not pointing to me being a lawyer or a doctor.
Mm.
Like those, I couldn't even consider those things when I was in school.
Right. Awesome. Okay. Are you the only child?
No, so I have two brothers. I have a half brother on my mom's side. I have a half brother on my dad's side. Sorry,
Okay.
but I am the oldest,
Oh,
so
okay.
I was the first one on both sides. So I had to figure it out for both of them.
Are they both in creativity or they're doing something completely different?
Completely different.
Wow.
One of my brothers is into fitness, and the other one's fairly young, so we're not really sure what he's gonna do
Okay.
yet. He is a little creative though. He kind of gets into like plays and acting and things like that. And that's my half brother on my dad's side. So
Right.
it's clear that my dad definitely he likes to make artists. So that's what we got.
In regards to your YouTube,
Hmm.
obviously I see that you've got quite a hefty number on there in regards to subscribers, and obviously it's evident because you're doing a very great job on your channel. Teaching people
Thank
and
you.
explaining things and reviewing cameras and and so on. In regards to the YouTube channel itself, so you are saying that there is no chance, not even a little chance, that you might end up saying, you know what, forget about client work. I'm gonna be a Peter McKinnon on my YouTube channel. Or I'm gonna. It's there's no chance whatsoever, or
You
time will
know,
tell.
I mean, time will obviously tell. But I like doing client projects. So what I'm
Right.
saying is that I will never just say I am done with clients. I'm never touching client projects ever again. I don't think I'll ever say that
Okay.
because like I've had just too many awesome experiences through doing client projects. And then I also find that, that's one of the strengths of my channel is that I find that like let's take a Peter McKinnon for example. He doesn't do a whole lot of client projects,
No.
right?
No.
So he can't really teach from that aspect.
Yeah.
And I find that there are a lot of people who view my channel who are aspiring filmmakers or they're freelancers or they're looking to go into that route and they need clients in order to financially make this hobby ultimately become a full-time career.
Yeah.
And so my ability to have clients of my own and then be able to honestly speak from my
Yeah.
experiences, I think is what has helped so many people through my channel.
Yeah.
And some of the, most relatable comments that I've gotten or people who've reached out to me, they all come from people who are, trying to start their business or trying to grow their
Yeah.
business. And because I experienced it firsthand, and I'm not someone who went to school for this, like I didn't go to film school, I didn't go to business school. So a lot of the things that I'm teaching, actually everything that I am teaching, I had to learn firsthand in the real world, either through trial or error or learning from somebody else's mistakes or my own mistakes, and just trying to make the process easier for that next generation. And I think a lot of people who watch my channel appreciate that because it's a perspective that isn't really showcased a lot on YouTube.
Right. Okay. Okay. There is one thing that a lot of creative people say, that United States is the best place to be being a creator. If you were giving the chance, to leave the country, both yourself and your family, to another country where maybe, let's say, it's a job and they want you to live there permanently and they're going to pay you a good money. And so would you be willing to make that sacrifice?
To leave the country,
Mm.
I mean, if it's permanently, I'm gonna probably pass.
Right. Okay.
I
Regardless of the
mean,
tag that they're giving you.
yeah, I mean, I really do love, my country. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy here, but I think that craziness is what also allows for so much of the opportunity. But
Yeah.
that's also me not really having as much experience outside of the country. So that idea might change,
Right.
and you never know. I will say though, like being a content creator, especially like a YouTuber or Instagram, or if you're creating your own content, it does give you a lot more flexibility in your location. Sure, being a content creator in the United States is a great place to be because there are so many other content creators, especially if you want to do things like collaborations and things like that.
Yeah.
But I really do believe like this, for example, with the internet being the way it is, you can do collaborations with someone clear across, on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
So I don't think that in today's world it really matters where you are if you're trying to create content for yourself for a social media platform like YouTube. Um, I would honestly say like if I could be anywhere, I'd just pick somewhere more beautiful than
Yeah.
Houston,
Of course.
Texas. So it would
Okay.
give me more awesome things to actually film. But I would probably rather just travel around and see different places. I think that would probably be the thing that would get me to move or to change is if I got an awesome opportunity and they were like, "Hey, you're going to be somewhere new every 3 months. Would you want to take that opportunity?" I would take that in a heartbeat because for me, it's about just seeing new things.
Yeah.
And I love capturing new places and meeting people at all those different places and telling their stories and things like that. So for me, it's more about the variety of places that I could be in. I would take that in a second.
I mean, being in varieties of places, we've had the restrictions with COVID, as many people are saying, and making our businesses go down and stuff. But how has yours fared throughout that couple of years in regards to the effect on COVID?
Yeah, so for me, it was definitely scary at the beginning. I would say like March 2020, when the US, got our first big wave and started doing shutdowns and that whole stuff was happening. I had like kind of my first initial scare. Like I had a handful of contracts with some pretty big jobs here. And all of that just got shut down. There was force majeure in place. So because it was a pandemic, you couldn't force people to pay the second half of their contracts. Like contracts were just voided
Yeah,
due to acts of God or due to the pandemic. So because of that, I lost a lot of immediate business. And so for me, I just started, and this is just kind of the way my brain works. I started thinking, okay, if I can't go out and film, that means people also can't, have people out. So
yeah,
like, where can I offer my services that still include cameras or
yeah,
video or whatever? And for me, I had a couple. One, I started offering live streams and really started hitting a lot of churches because I know that churches have to have, services every single Sunday.
mm,
And so I knew those would be very consistent clients. And, churches couldn't meet, but people needed to gather in those times. And so going online was the easiest way
yeah.
for most churches. So I started offering live streams to churches and then slowly started finding other businesses and establishments that could also benefit from live streams. So that was one way that I made it through. The other one was obviously I had my YouTube platform. And so I started using that platform. And thanks to so many people who were out there who supported the channel and who watched the content, and that obviously helped monetarily to help keep the business afloat. And then there was certain businesses where you could still go and do work without actually having to engage with other people, such as like I mentioned earlier with real estate. I
Yeah.
was able to offer a lot of real estate at those times because people couldn't have open houses, they couldn't have showings. And so I just started thinking of what are other industries that are being impacted by this whole COVID shutdown, and how can I offer a service that will help, alleviate some of those impacts that were being had. And that's how I got through it. The crazy thing though is that, all these things that I started offering that were new, we kept offering them through 2020 and into 2021. And then when, the vaccines started rolling out and people started getting back to normal,
Yeah.
what happened, which was kind of insane, was like all the old business came back, but then I had this new wave of income that I had set up during that time
Mm.
that was still thriving. And so the business just really, kind of just took on a whole nother
Skyrocketed.
leg.
Mm.
Yeah, just because now I had these different elements going simultaneously. And so ultimately that's where I got to the place where now, we have a team and we need multiple people and blah, blah, blah. So I just found that like during that time, it was really about just like acknowledging, because of COVID, what are the new problems that I can help
Yeah.
solve? And that's what I went about trying to sell. And I just thought, what are problems that my camera can help solve? And then I tried to create products out of that.
So for you, COVID was more of a blessing because it allowed you to open new avenues, isn't it? Rather than some
I mean,
people, just sitting back and then waiting for it to go over.
yeah, I mean, I hate to ever say that COVID was a blessing because it was definitely detrimental to a lot of people.
Yeah, of course.
And I just want to be sympathetic to those situations. But I will say that, COVID was definitely a new challenge and it taught me something. It was a very good learning environment for me where I learned that, even if you do everything right in your business, there's always something that can come along that you can't control that can try to derail your business,
Yeah.
and that you have to be ready to pivot and to learn and to try new things if you want to keep your business afloat. Because in I look at myself as a small business owner, and as a small business owner, you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for the most amount of success. And the easiest way to do that is to make sure that you stay flexible to a certain extent. So that way you can actually make sure that if like now we're finding out that they're in different variants. And so we
Yeah.
don't know what that's going to look
Yeah.
like with COVID. I know that my business is now COVID proof.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
have a plan if COVID happens again or a new variant comes out, as best as I can, but also being understanding that some things are just out of our control.
Okay, let's talk cameras. We have to talk cameras, you know. Else this
Yes.
interview will not make sense at all. What is your favorite camera? Or brand?
Man.
Let's start with brand. Let's start with brand.
I can't.
Everyone is watching.
Okay. Okay. Obviously, I mean, I'm wearing a red hat,
Right.
so I have to say that like one of my favorite brands right now to shoot with is definitely Red. As a owner of the Komodo and the Raptor, they are definitely my two favorite like video focused cameras. However, they're not perfect for everything.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, for example, like right now, I'm actually filming on a Sony FX3. And then like literally in arm's reach, like if I just reach right over here and just pull this into frame, like this is a Blackmagic 4K. And then the new Canon R3, or no, not R3, the R5C
Yeah.
that just came out. I'm really excited about that camera. So like for me, like yes, I technically love like the Red brand, but I also understand that those cameras are not great for everything, and we shoot so many different things that we are bouncing around from camera to camera. For me, it's not about one particular brand. It's about like the best tool for that job. And as I mentioned earlier, I understand that I'm very blessed to be in the situation that I'm in, but I've
Yeah.
also worked really, really hard to be in the situation that I'm in. And so I have the luxury of trying to find the right tool or picking the right tool for the job. That doesn't mean that I own everything, because there are definitely other cameras out there that I would love to own, but they just don't make sense for my business.
Yeah.
But when they make sense for the right project, I rent them. So that's kind of the way that I kind of attack the different brand question. But yeah, I'm not loyal to any particular brand. I'm willing to try any camera out there. I've tried a lot of them. But I do have a couple of favorites right now. The Raptor is probably one of my favorite cameras to film with. Some of my favorite shots I've ever I got on my Red Raptor. So that's why it kind of sits at the top of the food chain for me right now, at least.
So if you were given a list of cameras that you know, and you were
Okay.
only told to pick one to go and do whatever project, just one camera, which one would it be?
Do I know what the project is?
No, whatever project it is, not specific.
I can only
just
take.
any. Yes.
Oh man.
Or let's make it easier. Imagine
Okay.
You don't have all that wealth to buy any
Okay.
camera that you can buy, but you have like $10,000 to pick one
Okay.
camera for your business.
Got it. So I haven't filmed with this camera yet, but I filmed with a very similar version of it. I'm probably gonna go with the Canon R5C, which is
Right.
the new one. That's probably if I can only take one camera to do, and it has to do everything.
Yeah.
Like it has to be able to do whatever job. That's probably the camera that I'm gonna go with, because as of right now, to me, that is the most versatile camera that currently exists.
Okay.
And with $10,000, that gives me enough money to buy the camera and get a couple, maybe two decent lenses for it. And that would probably be the one I'd go with. Before that camera was announced, the answer would have 100% been the FX3. That's the reason why I have it right in front of me. The Sony FX3 is a phenomenal camera, but Canon kind of just, I mean, obviously I haven't filmed with it yet, but from what I'm understanding and the research I've done by it, it seems to be sub $10,000. That's probably the camera to go with.
Awesome. Okay. I will not say anything about that, but yes, we'll just keep it at that.
That's
But
all
yeah,
right. I
that's
mean,
good.
like I said, I'm not married to any specific
Brand,
brand.
yeah.
I shoot it all. I've got a Lumix over there. Like I literally could care less about the brand. It really is just what can the camera do for
It has
me.
to be versatile, isn't
Um,
it?
has to be versatile. Yeah. And I mean, or if it does one thing, like for example, like my Raptor, like it does one thing. It shoots 8K video,
Mm.
but it does it phenomenally. It shoots it at high frame rate, blah blah blah. Like it's phenomenal. Like my Komodo on this little crop you have here, you can't really see it, but I've actually got my Komodo over here, and I've got it on a Ronin with the Tilta like little circular thing
Yeah.
around it, and like it is a phenomenal gimbal camera. Like that's what my Komodo does so well. It's
Okay.
and like it like with the speed booster on there, it does that job super well. I can take it out on any job and know that it's going to just perform. And at the level that we're producing content at, that's what I need tools that perform every single time, because I can't be on set asking a client to hold on while I try to reconfigure my camera, or I do something else, or blah blah blah. It's just I need all my tools to just work, because we're normally moving really fast
First, yeah.
with what we're doing here.
Okay. I'm not going to take much of your time. I would ask one random question. Don't be offended. If you don't need
Okay.
to answer it, don't answer it. How old are you, or where can we place you in regards to age? This is because the next
Oh,
question would have been, it wouldn't have been a question, but it would be an advice that you have for, upcoming filmmakers, content creators.
yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm 30 years old.
Awesome.
I'm not ashamed by that at all.
Okay.
Actually, I love the fact that I'm 30 years old.
Mm.
I actually just turned 30 about 2 months ago in November. And 30 is the big year,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're 30, like something's supposed to happen. But I can honestly say, like, I worked really hard in my 20s. As I mentioned earlier, like I've got a kid who's 9,
Yeah.
so I had kids really young
Started
too.
early.
Like I had
Mm.
my first kid when I was 20 years old, or we found out we were having our kid when I was 20, and by the time he was here I was 21. But um you know I I love my age. I don't feel old or anything like that. I feel like I'm really just getting started,
Yeah.
and I'm excited by what has already happened between, 20 and 30,
Mm.
and it just makes me excited about what 40 and 50 and 60 might look
That's
like.
very okay.
But yeah, but I'll answer, what was your question?
Yeah, the age linking to what advice you have for upcoming content creators, filmmakers, because sometimes I think people visualize content creators and filmmakers to be young people. Do you understand?
Oh
That's
yeah.
how they
Yeah.
visualize people. But, some of us are in our 40s and, so on, and we're still doing the young stuff, quote unquote. So what advice do you have for those who are upcoming and feeling like, on the edge of giving up? And
Yeah, definitely don't. I mean, I don't think that video production or being a content creator or being a YouTuber even, I don't think that's like a young man's game or anything like that. I definitely think that if you enjoy doing it, you will naturally like attract people who feel the same way.
yeah,
As I mentioned, I just turned 30 and I have a YouTube channel and I post Instagram reels and I have fun with them. And some people might say, like, oh, that's for the young kids. Or if I'm on TikTok, they're like, oh, that's for the kids. But like, if you enjoy it, you'll attract your own natural audience. And something that I have personally found that's like, has resonated a lot is like, I have a family. And as you've even asked me questions about how is it to balance family and what is that whole process like, if you'd have asked 16-year-old Brandon that, there's no way he could answer that question for you because he doesn't know.
yeah,
But that's still something that people relate to. And so it doesn't matter what age you're at, if you're trying to be a professional filmmaker to shoot content for, clients, or if you're just trying to shoot your own content for your YouTube channel, like if it's what you love to do, you should just keep doing it. But I will say that like it does take hard work. But I find that the older you are, the more mature you
yeah,
get, the more you're actually able to like make sound decisions. Like the older I've gotten, the better I've gotten at my decision making process. Like I bought a lot of crappy gear when I was early on that I probably shouldn't have. As I got older, I learned how to save and how to make right decisions to buy the right stuff. And so as you get older, you just get more mature and you actually end up doing better because you have that little bit more of like life skills that come
Yeah.
along with just having the time to adapt them. So yeah, I would say like no matter how old you are, and if you are young, don't be discouraged because you're young either. Like just know that when you're young, you have certain advantages.
Yeah.
Like maybe you live with your parents, you don't have to pay as much in bills.
Mm.
I wish I had that sometimes. So I would say that each side has their own advantages. Just lean hard into the advantages that you have. So that way, you can be successful no matter what side of the coin you're on.
Thank you very much. Just before we wrap up and go, where can we find you on the socials?
Yep. So you can find me at BWash Media pretty much everywhere. If you want to find my production company, that's also bwashmedia.com. And then if you are looking to learn about filmmaking or something like that, like I mentioned before, we have my YouTube channel, which is just at Brandon Washington. And then, of course, we have our training course. Or, I'm sorry, we have our training course platform, learn.creativefamacademy.com. And that's where we go in depth on teaching filmmaking and, of course, the business side of how to do all this stuff too.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, Brandon, for coming on the show. And I hope and I believe that most of our viewers, if not every single one of them, have been very, very well in a way informed by, your experience throughout, growing up and getting where you have gotten to. And I believe that we can also pick one or two things from your lifestyle and, your experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, guys. Thank you for joining us. And today we had Brandon Washington, who is a filmmaker, content creator, and a YouTuber. Stay tuned for the next episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.